take me on a treasure hunt. I long for something new. Have you heard the fairies when they sing and dance? Oh, I wish it was me every night.
Hello and welcome to my channel, Wheel of the Year. My name is Liz, and thank you for joining me today. If you are a new subscriber, thank you for being here. And to all my old subscribers and friends, thank you for watching and supporting me. In this video, I have a lot of things that I hope that you'll like, including starting a worm farm bin for worm composting in the house, starting a sourdough starter, repurposing some plastic junk that would otherwise go in a landfill. So come along with me and enjoy. This video was filmed over several days, so that explains my change in clothing. I try to do a short meditation whenever I can. I'll use the Headspace app. This was a 3-minute meditation. They're guided meditations. Some just have timed songs, and I also sometimes use it to fall asleep at night, which is really nice. They have sleepscapes, which are people talking like a short narrative over a background sound of like the ocean or some other environmental sounds that are soothing. I made some yogurt. I put a pentacle in the yogurt after it had set. Now I'm going to just scoop that yogurt into the jars that I have waiting for it. I like to make my own yogurt because it tastes exactly like the expensive yogurt that you get from the store, but it isn't expensive. It's very easy to do in your Instant Pot. You basically, you just take a container of Fairlife or some other ultra-pasteurized milk, 16 ounces of a dairy-based creamer, whatever flavor you like. I think I just used the sweet cream flavor for this one, and 2 tablespoons of a live yogurt culture. You can get it from the store, or you can reuse your previous made yogurt if you want, although I've heard that after a certain amount of time that stops working very well. And then you just put it in your Instant Pot on the yogurt setting overnight, and voila, you have yogurt the next morning. My family really likes to eat it, and it's good for us. I can link the yogurt recipe in the description box. For these jars, which are a little bit bigger, I was filling the bottom with some homemade cherry jam that I made last spring after a trip I took with my BFF to our favorite local orchard. This way you get a fruit on the bottom kind of thing. You can mix it up or save the jam for the very last. I don't make too many of these because it is high sugar, and the youngest son, Xavier, he's only 2. He eats a lot of these, so he doesn't need the extra sugar. But for us adults, it's kind of fun once in a while. I had about 4 pounds of green beans that I had to chop up and prep. I was going to use some of them for dinner that night. I was going to use some of them in a 3-bean cold salad for Xavier's birthday party the next day. And some of them I was just going to freeze for future use. So this is just me cutting, washing, and prepping, and using my Zwilling vacuum sealer to freeze the green beans in a vacuum sealer bag so that I'll have more space in my freezer. Space is at a premium in my freezer because I do like to prepare and preserve foods. As I'm cutting, I'm saving the ends of the green beans. Those can go directly into my outdoor compost bin. I can feed them to the chickens, I can feed them to my box turtles, or I can use them as food in the worm bin that I just made, which I will show you a little while later. I started my worm bin with 2 bins from Target. They are called Bright Room bins, the brand, and they were about $3 for the big one, or $3 for the small one, and $4 for the big one, so $7 total. And I just drilled holes all in the top and around the edges of the bottom so that the worms have good aeration, which is critical for a worm bin. Just used a drill for that, and then I filled it up with almost finished compost from my compost bin and a little bit of ReptiBark, which I also use for my turtles, and some shredded newspaper, just to help keep the moisture level in and give them somewhere to start burying. And then I fed them a few of the green bean bins. So the starter that I was reading said to put the food that you're feeding them, and to not overfeed them, to put the food that you're feeding them along the edges or in the corners, and then you can work out when they're eating it and start putting more food next to that, and to always bury it so that it doesn't turn moldy or start to really rot before they can eat it. I'm looking for my green beans. Ah, there they are, green beans. Now, the worms didn't look very lively to me, but they were alive. I tested it by putting one underneath the light to see if it would move more, and it did. So the compost that they make, I'm planning on using in my garden and in my house plants. And then the worms, once they get to be too many for the bin, I will thin the population by feeding them to my turtles and my chickens, my backyard flock of chickens. So that's my worm bin. The turtles are named Sammy and Sheldon. There's a male and a female. I've had them for almost 10 years now. And they get a lot of raw vegetable kitchen scraps, raw fruit kitchen scraps. Every once in a while I'll give them a treat of some canned cat food or some worms. They really like slugs. If I find some slugs outside, I'll give them some of those. So now what you're seeing is that I am going to change out the water in my bettas container. It's not really a tank, it's just a little betta container. He does have an air plant at the top, so I just leave that air plant in there, and then I take some water that has been left out so it will dechlorinate, and I pour it into the top. And the fun thing about this particular container is that there's a tube that goes to the bottom, so that when I fill it with new water, the pressure of the new water will force the water from the bottom, which also contains all the debris that he didn't eat, his poop, all that kind of stuff, up through the tube and out. And I try to catch as much of that as I can in this little plant waterer so that I can put it in my houseplants, because that fish poop and that decaying fish food that he might not have eaten contains a lot of things that the plants really, really like. It's a lot of nitrogen type compounds that the plants are going to love. So I always try to catch that and then give it to my plants. A repurposing segment on how to repurpose this OxiClean container, because I want to use it for my kitchen scraps before I take it down to our compost bin, or before I take pieces out of it and put it in the little worm farm that I made. But I don't want it to just look like an OxiClean bin sitting on in my kitchen. That'd be silly, wouldn't it, Claude? That'd be silly, wouldn't it, Mojo? Mojo cares not for my shenanigans. But you can't, this isn't a sticker or anything. You can't peel it off. It's like sprayed onto the plastic, and I guess you can kind of pick it off. That's a new discovery for me. But that would be very tedious and take a long time. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go a different way, and I'll show you guys how I do it. I've been trying workouts. I found Grow with Jo workouts here on YouTube, and I subscribed to her, and I really enjoy them. I've been doing really well with the workouts since January, and then we got COVID, and I had the long-term fatigue associated with the COVID, so I hadn't been doing it as much. But today I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and get into it. There's a countdown. This is a premiere for Jo, and then we're going to get into it. These workout sessions, she has them anywhere from 10 to, I think, half an hour and 45 minutes long. And I'm a firm believer, I say this to myself all the time, it's one of my great mottos, is that you can do anything for 15 minutes. Surely you have 15 minutes during the day that you can just put this on and get a little sweat on. You know, it doesn't have to be a whole lot, as long as you're getting that heart rate up. And you look really silly in your kitchen, but you know, who cares? Just get the heart rate up. And like I said, if there's 15 minutes, you got 15 minutes. Just don't be on Facebook as much or something. You know, everybody's got 15 minutes. So I encourage everybody just to go out and get it done, as long as your health allows it, because it feels great. Here's this terrarium. This terrarium it died. It was doing really well, but I had many jobs and I wasn't able to take care of it. I had 3 jobs at the time. So I have transformed it into a carnivorous plant terrarium. We'll see how that does. I'm really excited about this carnivorous plant terrarium. I've never really kept a carnivorous plant before, except for a pitcher plant, which I tried to repot and I did it incorrectly and it died. Now I'm going to go ahead and start a sourdough starter. I'm using 1 cup of flour. I'm going to use 1/2 a cup of distilled water, and I'm going to mix it up in this big Kilner jar with this chopstick. Apparently you're not supposed to use metal utensils. And then I'm going to cover it with this nice little piece of cloth and a rubber band to keep debris from settling in it. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that up, and then you just leave that on your counter and you feed your starter. So I would take out 1/2 a cup of the starter and put back in another cup of flour and 1/2 a cup of water. It's supposed to be a nice peanut butter-like consistency when you're done. Maybe just a titch runny, but you don't want it too runny, and you don't want it a firm dough like you would be making bread. So I can see here that this is already too doughy. It's not watery enough. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to this once I scrape down the sides, because I don't want it to be that doughy. That's a dough ball. So that's not the consistency that we're looking for. just a titch of water. And if you need to add water, add it small amounts at a time, because you can always add more, but you can't take it out. You'd have to restart if you put too much in. So that's more of the consistency that I'm looking for. Now I'm going to go ahead and scrape down the sides again. And what I want to do is mark this with a marker so that I can see how much it expands over time and make sure that my yeast culture is healthy and active. Because as the yeast eat the gluten in the flour, it's going to make gas and it's going to cause bubbles and it's going to rise and expand. And then once the yeasts are finished and starting to be done with that gluten, it's going to fall. So I'm going to go ahead and use dry erase marker to mark where I've started, and then come back later and check it out. I get great satisfaction out of checking things off of my to-do list in a planner. Do you guys use a to-do list or a planner? Let me know in the comments which you prefer, just a to-do list or a planner. Now I am at the craft store picking out sheets of permanent vinyl to use for my project. And these are just regular sheets that people would use in a Cricut machine. I am going to use 2 whole sheets to cover the outside of my bin. I'm just going to cut them so that there's about 2 inches hanging over the edge, because it tapers and I would want it to be able to cover the whole thing. Luckily this has a grid design on the back so that it's easy to cut a straight line, sort of like some wrapping papers do. So once I cut these, I'm just going to put the vinyl, wrap the vinyl around, and then I chose a contrasting color of vinyl, and I will put that through my Cricut machine to make a label for it. I kind of want a nice witty pun, so I'm still thinking that up. But if you don't have a Cricut machine, you could just as easily use a regular label maker or just use a Sharpie marker to write the label on the bin or anything that you want it to say, so it's not just plain. Or you could leave it plain if you prefer. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Please do me a huge favor and hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe and make sure the notifications are on so that you'll get notified the next time I post a video. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from, what you like best about this video, and what you'd like to see in future videos. I love to hear the comments from you guys, and I would love to know who's actually out there watching. Blessed be, and have a great week. To give you guys a video update about the chickadees. They are still out here. I have named them Phoebe and Phineas. And they're actually out here currently. It's rainy, so they're kind of blah, but let me see if I can get a picture. He's in there. Fin. He's actually starting to really not be bothered by me being out here. You see, he's not alarm calling right now. like he would normally be if there was something that was threatening out here. They would go chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dee. And I think that they haven't finished laying eggs because the female will come out of the nest, so she hasn't started brooding yet. But I think it's close. I think it's very close because there are times where he brings her food up to the entrance. So there we have it. Phineas and Phoebe. I called her Phoebe because of the noise, the whistle song that chickadees make. You just heard it right there. Phoebe, Phoebe. That's how he calls her. Let me see if he'll do it again. He's up there in that tree. Actually, a little while ago, he was calling the Phoebe song, and I was calling back to him or trying to whistle back to him as best as I could. And then he started making a little gargling noise, a gargle call that chickadees usually only reserve for as like a scolding for members of their flock. So I don't know if that was meant for me. There were no other birds out here at the time, so it might have been meant for me. I've taken to coming out here whenever I hear him scold, just to see what's going on, because this morning there was a cat. But sometimes it's just the rabbits. He doesn't like the rabbits being out here. Those are my chickadees. I'm so excited about them. I'm keeping an eye on them, trying to do the right thing. That birdhouse was not meant to have birds live in it. I did not for 1 second think that birds would ever choose that to nest in, especially not something that seems as picky and finicky as a chickadee, because I just put it out there so something was on the shepherd's crook over the winter and it wasn't empty and sad looking. And now there's a family of chickadees in it. And there are things like house sparrows that try to murder chickadees, and they're an invasive species, so I'm gonna have to put something over the holes so that the house sparrows can't get in there, and it's very low to the ground, so I'm worried about the stray cats. They don't usually come around here because one of my dogs is not cat friendly, and the neighborhood cats know this, but it still worries me. So I have a lot invested in chickadees now, guys. I did a lot of research. I can't wait to share all the facts with you that I found out about chickadees, which are really interesting. So if you want to know more about chickadees, that's coming up in more videos. Also, in the next video, I'm going to be baking the sourdough bread. I'm going to be having uses for moon water. So stay tuned. Fun things coming up. Thanks for watching, guys.